Welcome to Thor Cast, Tampa's health and organized recreation podcast. I'm your host, Jeff, and today I'll be interviewing local author Aaron Buchanan, or will I, about the premiere novel of his the Inkwell series, Mightiest of Swords, and his upcoming novel, Will of Shadows.
The sequel.
The sequel.
Of the Inkwell series.
So, Aaron, I'm going to call you James, because I've known you for a long time.
That is my given name, yeah.
Well, Aaron's your given name, too, but it's your given name.
Well, it's my other given name, right.
So why don't you read us the back of the book?
Am I reading the Mightiest of Swords back?
Yeah, we're going to talk about the first one.
Okay.
I'll have to come back and interview about the other one once it comes out.
Words are power. Grey Theroux is not the kind of mage you've read about in storybooks. She's a multilingual practitioner of the ancient art of logomancy, summoning magic from the written word. Reclusive on the worst days and socially inept on the best of them, Grey resides in modern-day Springfield, Massachusetts in relative peace with her best friend Joy and a magic-wielding former rock star from the hair metal days gone by. Together, their friendship offers her company and somewhat at least help her to feel human. But events have occurred to shake Grey out of her near-idyllic life of academic pursuit, and she has discovered an insidious plot targeting the world's aging population of gods. Along with allies old and new, Grey is drawn deeper into the effort to thwart that plan, and in doing so comes face-to-face with the past she barely knew, and the future that inexplicably brings her purpose.
So, the character in your book is a logomancer. What is that?
It was one of those ideas that occurred to me, and of course, the ideas of magic and wizardry. I mean, I'm a big Harry Potter fan, going way back in the day. I mean, hell, I even have a Harry Potter tattoo. If that,
Show us.
if I'm gonna wave my nerd flag high enough, it's pretty high. Anyway, so. You know, like, in those books, she talks about, like, tessiomancy, like reading the tea leaves, and some of the other ones. And I've also heard other, occlumency, that's another one that she talks about in Harry Potter. But it's not just a J.K. Rowling thing where you have different types of magic and specialized names for each kind of magic. So I had this idea of, like, okay, what if there were a kind of magic where it was entirely based on the written word? And so, having been a student of Greek, the word for word is logos, and so
The word for word.
Yeah, the word for word is Greek. In Greek is logos. So I'm like, all right, logomancer. We're gonna make that a thing. And it's funny. When I first thought of the idea, like I of course Googled it to see if anybody else had thought of it, and somebody had, but not exactly, because it was like a Marvel character from the Submariner comics from way back in the day.
Yeah, who cares?
And like, Submariner, who cares? But yeah, the character had nothing to do with what I was doing with it. So I'm saying that there's no way they can trademark a name like that. So them.
Plus, as with Harry Potter, I mean, she used wands. People have used wands before for magic.
Right. So. There's nothing.
Nothing new under the sun.
Right.
So write it better.
Exactly.
Than the last
exactly. Right.
And so, does writing energize or exhaust you?
Oh, both. And this is why. It's its own kind of catharsis to write. Mm-hmm. But in order to write, you have to be disciplined, and it takes time, and it hurts your brain sometimes, and you have to sit there and go through things and plan out the story. I think when I'm writing these books, that's my dog.
Hi, Spartacus. Hi, buddy.
He's come to crash the party.
As long as he doesn't crash the equipment.
At Man Cave, Dave Buchanan. Anyway.
Yeah, British man cave.
Yeah. Forgot what I was talking about.
We were talking about catharsis.
Oh, catharsis.
And you
No.
said something about discipline, which is why
No, you have
which
to
is
be
why you've
disciplined to
almost
do it.
That's why you've almost finished 2 books while I'm still working on my first.
Hey, sometimes it just takes us a little longer, okay?
Especially me.
Some people are just late bloomers. But yeah, so it's both a exhausting but also an enriching experience. You feel like you've accomplished something, of course, and it's always nice. Like, I feel like you exercise some demons when you write some of these things. Of course, you're writing something as well, and there are parts of your story that sort of, when I write, I was purposely trying to distance my own ideas and autobiography from the main character. In fact, I think when I was writing, I think there are parts of me in all the characters, not necessarily in just one. But when you talk about some of these things, that's the thing. I was trying to write something that was entertaining, but also had big ideas and talked about big ideas. And so I think that's where the catharsis came in. And that's something I always wanted to do. So that's also why I found it enriching.
And do you find when you're writing, you think so hard? I actually feel my head by the time I'm done is hot.
Well, I think your hard drive might be working a little too hard, Jeff. No, I don't feel like that. It's kind of weird. I do, like, you've seen the movie Amadeus, where Mozart would compose these things in his head, and only when he actually sat to write these things down, and those were original copies, which apparently is false. That's not a true story. There are drafts of Mozart works that he wrote, but it's a cool idea. Yeah. I think a lot of what I had written, and I do write. Of course, I'll go back.
We are experiencing technical difficulties. Please stand by. Thor Cast is brought to you by Focus Fitness.
Focus Fitness, massage and focus mitt kickboxing. 727-692-9105. Focus Fitness. 727 focuses on you. 692. De-stress. 9105. With kickboxing for mental and physical fitness. Sometimes you just want to hit something. When you work out with my husband, you'll hit focus mitt pads. Jeff has leveled routines for beginners to experts. You learn effective defense and offense techniques while engaging in an energizing, fun workout. Call 727-692-9105. Focus Fitness. 727 focuses on you. 692. De-stress. 9105. With an in-home massage for mental and physical fitness. Traffic is obnoxious. Do you really want to have another place you have to drive? Save yourself the stress. He'll drive to you. I can attest an in-home massage is best. Instead of red lights and errands to run after massage, get your massage, then veg on the couch. A Focus Fitness medical massage focuses on fixing the things that keep you from moving. 727. A Focus Fitness sports massage focuses on keeping athletes limber. 692. A Focus Fitness stretching massage allows you to stay in your sweats, while Jeff focuses on getting your limbs back in action. 9105. A Focus Fitness relaxation massage focuses on easing away the stresses of the day. Call Focus Fitness, Massage, and Focus Mitt Kickboxing. Call 727-692-9105. Focus Fitness, Massage, and Focus Mitt Kickboxing. Focus Fitness, focusing on your mental and physical fitness.
Focus Fitness. That's focus, the letter J, fitness.tumblr.com. And now back to our irregular program.
So when I sit down to write it, I think the dialogue, the scenes haven't necessarily all been planned out in my head, but I will say that I have a very good idea of what I'm going to do for the day. I've planned it out in my head beforehand, or the night before. Like I would sit there at night and think, okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to write the next day. Or when I'm driving home from work, I would turn off the radio, which me, I love listening to music or NPR or whatever. I would just turn it off, and then in the silence of the ride home, I would compose these things in my head, and then come home and write them.
So, me, Yeah, same thing. I'll just find myself just staring off into nothing for I'm not exactly sure how long, and then I come back to it. It's usually like I'm standing like in the kitchen in the corner, just like zoning out.
Like you lost time.
What authors did you dislike at first but grew into?
Ooh, you know what? When you sent me a list of these questions, I'm like, oh, I know exactly who I'm going to talk about, but then I forgot.
I gave you, like Hillary, I gave you the questions.
I know, you did. And I didn't...
Oh, you stepping in front of the camera. Just like...
There's a camera.
That pink thing...
The pink thing?
Was James's wife.
Hey!
I'm sorry.
She's thirsty.
I thought it was just on.
You could say that again. Thirsty.
Okay.
Can I, like, give you a kiss on the head?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I won't, but sure.
God damn it. Come back to this question. Can you edit that part out? I'm going to think about
What
that.
authors did you dislike at first but grew into?
I know the answer to this. My brain's farting.
Neil Gaiman?
No, I've always loved you. No, I've actually always loved Neil Gaiman.
I know. Tolkien?
No, I've always loved Tolkien as well.
J.K. Rowling?
Hold on. My bookshelves are behind us. I'm going to cheat.
Very unorthodox interview style. While he's cheating, I will get a drink of water.
No. God damn it. I don't know. I forgot. I want to think about it. You can edit that part out, right?
At the moment, can't remember. Maybe by the end, it'll just...
Yeah, it'll probably pop in there eventually.
What was an early experience where you learned that language had power?
Okay. All right, so you know I'm a big fan of the music, and I think for me, I even equate a lot of writing music or writing fiction or anything else, actually. When you're in the creative process, I think it largely is comparative. But I would say that when you listen to these songs, the lyrics... I think that was, even when at a young age, I think that was the first time I realized that the music's good, but it's the words with the music that make it mean something. Yeah. So I think that was probably historically the first time I saw that the power of language, of course, but we're going to talk about a specific book.
Or just comedian, like George Carlin.
I'll actually tell you a story about when Fight Club the movie came out in 1999. I was in college, and a friend of mine in one of my classes, he's like, "Dude, you got to see this movie, but before you go see the movie, read the book. It's a quick read, it won't take you very long." So he kept saying he was going to bring me the book, but I ended up just buying it anyway. So I bought Fight Club by Chuck Palahniuk at the local Barnes & Noble and started reading it. And it just blew my mind. So it's the only book I've ever read where as soon as I finished the last page of the book, I flipped it to the front and just started reading again.
That's cool.
And I can honestly say that book changed my life.
So I should read it.
If you haven't, yeah,
I haven't yet.
It's one of those things where it's definitely a zeitgeist. It appeals to a certain person at a certain time, and I don't read a lot of Palahniuk anymore. It's because I think I've outgrown him, if that makes sense. But a lot of what he was writing back then appealed to me. I was young, early 20s, and I certainly had a chip on my shoulder that I think he was giving voice to, that not a lot of people realized that we were all sort of in the same boat. And that was when I really felt that, there's power in the actual literature itself. I mean,
it's just that feeling of kind of being adrift and not really having a place in the world.
Yeah, that's definitely part of it. And then knowing, of course, you're not alone, that not only did the author feel the same way, but all these other people who are reading the book, watching the movie. Because, a week later, I saw the movie for the first time. And then, of course, I saw like 2 more times in the theater.
I am tired. Tyler Durden.
Indeed.
And, it was a very, very interesting movie. I will check out the book.
It's a quick read. It's pretty good.
It's short? All right.
At least it seems short.
Maybe it's because it was so damn good.
It's so damn good. Even the second time around, it was so good.
What's your favorite underappreciated author?
Ooh.
No, novel. Sorry, underappreciated
novel? Oh my god. Okay. I think you just mentioned Neil Gaiman, of course. Like, he's my favorite, and I'm really ecstatic about American Gods becoming a show. Awesome show, and I actually would have said that book, because Fight Club was transformative for me. American Gods definitely was transformative for me. But now I think it's not underappreciated anymore, as of a couple weeks ago.
That's true.
It's getting critical accolades everywhere.
Has it started?
Yeah, it's 2 episodes in.
Oh.
So I can't give you that answer anymore, because now finally, after all these years, that one's getting its due, and people are saying, it's only 2 episodes in, so it's you haven't seen anything yet. Anyway, as far as another one goes, see, I read a lot of popular authors, but I would say I'd probably have to choose something that's lesser known by a popular author. So I am going to say Chuck Palahniuk, because even though a lot of his stuff, I think they've made Lullaby, they're making Lullaby into a movie. Chuck Palahniuk did a crowdsourcing through Kickstarter or whatever.
That's so cool.
And they're making that, and I think he's got big names attached to it, like James Franco or whatever. They did a movie out of Choke, and of course Fight Club. But there's one book that I actually love most of all from him, and it's called Survivor. And it's about a guy who grew up in a religious cult, like a really bizarre religious cult. And
sounds dark.
They send these people out on a work release or something. And yeah, it's very dark, but it's darkly comic, very sardonic. And having my own,
Dark
my
sense
own.
of humor.
Well, I do have a dark sense of humor, of course.
British sense of humor.
Yes, that's my Anglophilia. Yeah, that Survivor, Chuck Palahniuk. It's got some great lines in that book.
So another one that I will read now. Okay. As a writer, what would you choose as your mascot, avatar, or spirit animal?
See, I actually love this question. This is why. Whenever I go on a road trip with somebody, I mean, more than a couple hours, like 3-4 hours plus, this is always a question I ask. Not necessarily as a writer, but I'm like, okay. Because I love Philip Pullman's His Dark Materials trilogy.
I'm reading the first one right now.
Love those stories.
You recommended it.
Yes. So in those novels, the characters from the one world, their souls exist outside of their bodies in the shape of animals.
And they call them demons. And
yeah, they call them demons. Is Greek word for spirit. It's even spelled.
Really?
Yeah, it's even spelled like the Greek word.
Well, that makes sense.
Daemon. He's anglicized with that.
All right, fine. I'm listening to it.
There we go. Oh, cheater. All right, so no, it's just the Greek word for spirit, which is...
That's cool.
And there's a lot of... He does a lot of play off the Greek language in that one. Sort of like Rowling does the play off the Latin in her series. He does the play off the Greek in His Dark Materials. Anyway, the story has these people running like up until you hit puberty, you are all your demon is shape shifting. It doesn't know what it's going to be.
Yeah.
But also because it's Britain, you have these very stratified classes. Like servants always have their demons always turn into dogs.
Yeah.
And then if you're educated, it was something even more interesting. But I would say, like, I've always known this. Like, I've always known the answer from the first time I read that series that mine would be a raven. And
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, I'm not like a big Edgar Allan Poe fan. I mean, he's all right or whatever, but I think ravens historically have been misunderstood. They're brilliant animals.
Oh yeah, very smart. Corvids in general.
Yeah,
some of the smartest birds.
And so, I was just reading an article about ravens the other day. I'm like, they'll play dead like next to a carcass, just so that other ravens won't they'll think that he got poisoned.
That is awesome.
Yeah, so that's fucking brilliant. I love those things.
I think that we need to do that on another podcast.
What?
Cool.
Oh, about ravens? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
so cool.
I even watched a video of a raven solving like 6 complex puzzles to get a piece of food.
I've seen that one.
It's a YouTube thing.
That's cool.
So, but even before I'd even known all of that stuff, I'm like, oh, dude, I'm so raven, which I think is the
I'm so raven.
The master. That's so raven, right? Sure. I never watched that shit. I'm surprised you have.
No, I never have either.
No, isn't the you're at the beginning of the book, right?
She's with the Gypsians.
Oh, so you're past that part. Well, I think the master of Oxford, his demon was a raven.
Or was it an owl?
I could have sworn it was a raven, but it always made sense to me as a raven. Anyway, that's my piece.
Okay. I think mine would be probably a wolf or a bull mastiff.
Bull mastiff. Does that mean you're a servant?
No.
Okay.
They were lovable dogs that could also knock people on their ass and hold them there.
Indeed.
Okay. What does literary success look like to you?
Ooh, this is kind of a sore subject in some places. No, I actually had a conversation with somebody this morning about it.
How fortuitous.
Okay. So I'm reading these books right now, all right? And mainly one, but I kind of dabble in this other one. And I have a friend of mine who teaches English up in Tennessee. And I saw this book originally on like a BuzzFeed must-read list. And it's a book of essays, which I don't typically read anyway, but why not, right? And man, it's terrible. It's dishonest. It's.
I think I know which book you're talking about.
Probably. It's not written with any genuine sensibilities. It all just.
That's sad.
It all just reads as something somebody writes to impress another piece, and it's not poorly written by any means, but it's the parts that are supposed to be heartfelt come across as
uninspiring.
Definitely uninspiring. Uninspiring. And then these other little essays, they're inane, they're boring, and it reads exactly like you would think somebody narrating an afternoon of Sunday golf. That I know, Shriek.
My dad would love it.
It's not compelling reading by any stretch,
but it's golf.
But no, I actually went on and read some of these reviews, and it had astonishing by Rolling Stone. At least that's the blurb that was on Amazon about it. Yeah, but it's not astonishing. It's astonishingly bad.
Inane babble, as Gandalf would say.
Yeah, that's what it was. So anyway, so if that's literally if that's literary success, is to have Rolling Stone say you're astonishing. And to have, BuzzFeed puts you on a list of books for must reads, then I don't want anything to do with that. On the other hand, I think people who, George R.R. Martin has it down because people hang on every word that dude says.
Yes,
pretty much at all times.
That is a book that will,
almost to like a religious.
Books like that will live for centuries.
Yeah, and I think that's what it is. If you've written something that you know will endure, like that's success.
Yeah. Tolkien.
The rest of it.
I mean, in a couple hundred years, they'll still be reading Tolkien. They'll still be reading Rowling. They'll still be reading Martin.
Yeah, I think so.
We can do it.
Maybe. Maybe.
So did you answer? What does it look like to you, though?
I just said to have something that endures.
That's exactly what I hope for both of us.
Okay.
What kind of research do you do, and how long do you spend researching before you begin a book? We kind of touched on this a little bit.
There are certain things that I had to research for the Inkwell so far. I'm a fairly educated dude, so a lot of the stuff that I write about I do know about. However, when I'm writing currently, it's not part of the Inkwell trilogy. I do have to research considerably. Ooh. Because it's sort of out of my realm of expertise. It's meant to be a sort of science fiction book.
Ooh, sweet.
Much more grounded and Earth-based. However, my protagonist is an astronomer by trade, and although I'm very interested in astronomy, I don't know as much about it.
Is that why you're asking me about the galaxy I'm making?
No.
No? Oh, okay.
No, not that kind of story.
Ah, okay.
I think I asked you about that for some other reason, but no, I don't remember.
Wow. Got to write things down.
Yeah,
that's what I find.
Probably.
I have a memory, so I have a terrible memory. I'll bleep that out.
You won't remember.
Probably. What did you edit? What did you edit out of Mightiest of Swords that was an interesting idea but just didn't quite fit?
Oh, jeez. I don't think there was any. As far as scenes go, the scenes are all pretty much the same, but I definitely did change some characters around. Like there's a part that I don't know why this is sticking out, but in the early draft of the book, I had the goddess Iris showing up at the scene of a crime, and that just didn't work at all. So I believe I changed it to Mercury instead. But there are little things like that, and also I definitely ended up changing who the major antagonist is for the entire trilogy.
Cool.
So I had written it as one way and thought better of it a few months later. Actually, it was about 6 months later. I said, you know what? That might work, but this works better. And so far, so good.
Good.
Because this person's still around for the third book, and that's when he's going to start playing a more prominent role as an antagonist.
And probably meet his maker. Maybe.
Or not.
The bad guy wins. Oh, no!
It's the best ones, man. Come on.
Have you read anything that made you think differently about fiction?
Well, that's a double-edged sword, isn't it? I told you the story about the Fight Club thing, and of course, reading Neil Gaiman for the first time. Also, was recommended from a friend from college back in the day, and I guess discovering Gaiman for me was probably that's probably the best answer I'm going to give you, because I've always wanted to write. I never knew, should I stick with one genre over another? And I don't think I ever could. And I think that's the way Neil Gaiman is, that you can't just stick him in a genre. Like, you go to the bookstore, you'll find him on the sci-fi fantasy rack. And yeah, of course, there are fantastic elements to his writing. But everything he writes feels like it could take place in the world that we live in, which is the difference between, I've read a lot of science fiction and fantasy, but that's the difference between Neil Gaiman and everybody else. His feels like if you went outside right now, that's what could happen.
Even
and that's
other urban fiction writers?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Like if you talk about urban fantasy, I do not feel the same way if I read a Jim Butcher book or a Kevin Hearn book. As much as I like those stories, the Neil Gaiman stuff seems like it could take place in the real world.
Interesting.
The characters to me seem more genuine. Gaiman's last book was
Oberon isn't genuine?
I love Oberon, I do, but he wrote this. It was weird how much critical acclaim he received. I mean, it was all over the house. It's called The House at the End of the House at the End of the Lane, and there's a road. I can't even remember now, sadly. But it was just about a guy going to where he grew up and something fantastic happening, and I mean that in the true sense of the word fantastic. And it just seemed like he's a normal dude. He was remembering what it was like to go home, and then he goes and he starts remembering even more things, and that's when the weird stuff starts to go down. And he meets somebody from his past that he thought he forgot about, or he thought he was imagining from back then. But when you think of childhood, that was childhood. You think like, oh, was that magic when I was a kid? Like, remember when we discovered Lockman's Lodge in the woods behind your house? Like, that to me is one of those magical memories where I look back and I'm like, man, that place was like a fortress in the middle of Mirkwood Forest or something.
Built by Mother Earth.
Built by Mother Earth. And like you look back and now it's like, oh, it's just a tree. It fell down and got overgrown.
And another tree fell on it.
Another tree, and it was all covered and perfect. But like, wouldn't it be cool if you just went back there and like, holy it's like the entrance to a fairy world or something.
That would be cool.
See, like that's the way
as long as the fairies were nice.
Comes across to me. Say what?
As long as the fairies were nice.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that too.
All right. So, all right. What are the ethics of writing about historical figures?
Ooh. See.
Because you do have some historical figures in your books.
I do. And in the sequel that's getting released this week, Will of Shadows, there are actually 4 or 5.
Let me see. It's Shakespeare.
5 characters. Shakespeare, of course.
Sir Francis Bacon,
Elizabeth I, John Dee.
John Dee, yes.
And
who is reported that maybe John Dee that may have written some of Shakespeare's plays? Is that one of the?
Well, they say that Bacon may have.
Oh, Bacon. That's kind of a conspiracy theory.
No, there are lots of little conspiracy theories, and that's actually part of what inspired that part of the story is looking into. I was researching that one actually. Cool. Obviously I'm a history guy, but going back and looking how much doubt there was about who wrote what and who contributed to this, and is it still going, by the way? She hasn't checked in a while. We're still good? Hasn't stopped? Nice.
Sweet.
Okay, sorry.
It's okay.
As far as the ethics go, I think that's if I were to write about someone more recent, which I do have an idea for a book series about a more, I guess, somebody who's died in the last 100 years. I think I probably would, because that the family's probably still around.
It's Ronald Reagan, isn't it? It's Ronald Reagan.
No. No. I'm not going to say who, because it's a damn good idea, and I'm going to get to it eventually.
It's like, it's mine!
It's mine. Anyway.
My precious.
Pretty much. But Shakespeare doesn't have any, like, living direct descendants. Like, everybody in his, all of his children ended up, like, dying off. Like, he had a daughter that lived older age, but I think she wasn't married. John Dee. Elizabeth I, Virgin Queen, of course.
Which, I think it's this way. Like, John Dee, most people are never gonna have heard of. So they probably never heard of him.
Unless you watch Knights of Badassdom.
That's true. That's true. But you bring out these historical figures and you give a little truth, and then you twist it to your own, your own designs.
Yeah. But
you can get people to know about these people. and they might look up who they really are and what they really did. And so, in other ways, you're encouraging the interest. You're encouraging those who are interested about history
to follow up,
or
at
find
least
out the
click
truth
on the Wikipedia article.
Yeah, and hopefully that it's true, not too many trolls.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, like I was always curious about the life of Mozart, and I think I read a lot of Wikipedia articles about that.
And if you write something a little that's not quite true about certain people, like you're writing that they know magic, well, magic doesn't exist, so creative license.
Indeed, a lot of creative license.
And in some of these ones that are supposed to be true, like a lot of the Roman movies about Roman figures, you have issues with because they're not very accurate at all.
Yeah,
but people like them.
There's lots of killing.
So you're in good company.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. No, I understand what you're saying with that.
How do you select names for your characters?
I actually thought that was a pretty interesting question. Some of the names are deliberate. Obviously, I named my main character in Inkwell deliberately. As you find out, her first name has a purpose, her last name has a purpose. I even explain some of the characters' name and how they come by them and why they are the way they are. But as far as random characters go, or even like some of my antagonists, they in the Inkwell, I was very particular. I wanted to choose names of historically scientific people. So
cool.
I think one of the names was Dalton, who was one of the people on the Human Genome Project, as far as the last name goes.
Cool.
And the main bad guy one of the main guys in Inkwell Part 1 is his last name is Von Ronk, and he's named for the founder of historiography, if you know what that is.
The study
the
of
Germans back
history?
it's the study of history. Back in the 19th century in Germany, they were going there was like an academic renaissance, not just in history, but a number of the social disciplines. I mean, that's even when you're getting psychology.
Yeah.
And a lot of the sciences are coming out as far as publication. And
it was a philosophy,
the Germans
philosophy movement then too, right?
Yeah, and this movement was led by a German guy named Von Ronk, and who was trying to I was really fascinated by the idea. It's like he wasn't trying to change history for himself, but he was trying to change history, which is sort of central to the theme of
what would that
what's
be
going
called?
on with Inkwell.
Histrionics? Is that when it's kind of messing with history a little bit? Or is that not the right term?
That's not it.
What's it called?
I don't know what you're talking about.
When people kind of rewrite history.
Are you talking about revisionism?
Revisionism. Thank you,
Yeah.
thank you.
Which I don't really think is a real thing, but whatever. Just perspectives, man.
Do you hide any secrets in your books that only a few people will find?
Yes.
Cool.
I definitely have secrets in there.
Cool.
I can't say that I like J.K. Rowling level cleverness, but there's stuff in there that I'm hoping somebody will find one day.
And in 20 years...
when book 2 comes out, then maybe more.
20 years you'll make it appendices.
Maybe.
What was your hardest scene to write?
Ooh, my hardest scene to write. I think the climax of the first novel was probably my hardest scene to write. For anybody who's not listening, I'm not going to go into too many details about it because I don't want to play spoilers with it. But you don't know exactly how that's going to come off to some people, and how events unfold, and the kind of magic's being used, and
He's
just snoring. Come on, man. What? Roll over. Look at my Jeff. Look at my balls.
I'll just cut that part out. Trying to be a little more respectable.
Sorry. Yeah, so I'm probably the most self-conscious about that part, and it was the most difficult to write for me. And of course, what came after, of course, was as well, because it was the ending of my very first novel. So it was like, does this work? Does this work?
That would be difficult.
Yeah. See, there's lots of second guessing.
I haven't gotten there yet.
Lack of faith, and therefore lack of dignity. No dignity.
What one thing would you give up to become a better writer?
Ooh, this is what... I did not watch television at all.
That's cool.
When I was writing, I'm talking just first drafts. When I was writing both novels, I didn't watch TV at all. So
that's cool.
I would say if you're going to write, you probably need to turn down certain things in your life, and television is, or in movies or whatever, Netflix. We're sort of at a difficult time in history because we have some of the greatest television that's ever existed. But it also, you're sacrificing 13 hours in front of Netflix, and that's 13 hours with which you could have used to write stuff.
True.
So that, I would say that.
That must be difficult because sometimes, watching stuff is a bonding family moment. And,
it is. Well, I don't know. I definitely don't want to watch the same stuff as my kids watch. Unfortunately, I've had to. Like your That's So Raven commentary. I think I lucked out not ever having to watch that, but I had to watch some show on the Disney Channel the other day, and it's like, what is this?
I mean, it came
it's
across
terrible.
That. I'm a potato. I sent
Small
to you.
potato. Okay, I do like those.
I'd never heard them before.
Really?
No.
It was always like, it was Disney Junior.
No.
Small potato. They always had British accents. Yeah,
yes.
That was redeeming quality for me.
Here's a good one. What is your favorite childhood book?
Hands down, The Hobbit, dude. The Hobbit made my life.
How old were you?
Okay. The first time I ever did anything with The Hobbit was actually the cartoon came on Channel 17 back in the day. Yes. And that was even before it was Fox, mind you. It didn't go to Fox until later, I don't think. Anyway, I remember seeing it on there. I'm like, oh, this is awesome.
Yes.
And of course, they played The Hobbit.
Greatest adventure is what lies ahead.
I'm embarrassed for you. Of course, they played The Hobbit, and then they played the same Rinkin bass cartoon, Return of the King. And they used to play them back to back on Saturday mornings.
There's a way. Where there's a way. Which I was sad to find out. I don't think that one's in the book.
It is.
It is?
Yeah.
I need to read.
I remember reading it and just going. I
need to read those again.
I even had to add the sounds when I read it.
Of course, you have to.
And 15 birds and 5 for trees.
Yes, I love that one.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that was classic.
I would try to sing, but I'm only a baritone, so you go down to Goblin, down to Goblin. Oh crap! I lost it.
Yeah,
lots of good songs especially for young guys.
Even before I read the book, it was a few years after before because I probably saw those when I was 5-6 years old.
Yeah, I remember being on the farm.
I was really little when I saw those, and I remember that's the thing. We grew up in the middle of nowhere, so I grew up right across the street from a forest. I had a cornfield or whatever in the back, and then to the side of my house, we didn't have neighbors really, but we had a pond, and there was some more trees in the back. So I remember just getting lost in the forest with my dog. Much more useful dog than that thing.
Yeah. In the forest of Mirkwood.
Yeah, it was my own little Mirkwood. And I remember, I had this Dracula cape, and I would just I'd put on my cape, and I would be Frodo. I remember getting this I have no idea this day. I have no idea what it was, but this little plastic thing that looked like a ring, and that would be my ring of power. And I shit you not, I did this. I cut out construction paper, brown construction paper, put yarn on it, and tied it to my feet so I'd have furry feet.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
True story.
What about Sting?
Yeah, of course. I remember my mom buying me like a little toy sword, like a silver toy sword, and that was my Sting. Yeah.
My dad was in drafting and design, and so he had like this big. You probably remember that, his big ruler.
No, I don't.
Big gigantic ruler, and I was either Perseus or it was Sting, And I when the next time I went to use it was like because there are all these chunks taken out of it. I got a little bit of trouble.
Man, maybe just a little. So yeah, The Hobbit, man, that was my childhood. The Hobbit.
I did. My mom read it to me before I could read good.
I think the first time I read it was in 5th grade, so it wasn't that much longer.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your upcoming novel, Will of Shadows. How'd you come up with the name?
This is the part where you helped me come up with it, because I had a different title and you helped me pick this different one because I wanted to. Well, Mightiest of Swords, kind of has a double meaning, an obvious double meaning, and but the second book, I wanted to have a double meaning as well, and I told you that. Yeah, he's ridiculous. Anyway, so I wanted to have a double meeting, and you helped me come up with the name.
What was the original name?
Credit was due.
What was the original name?
Oh, it was.
I'm trying to remember. Darkest of Wills.
Darkest of Wills. That's right.
But I thought it would be better if it was because am I not supposed to say that?
No, you're not supposed to say that.
I thought it was interesting, because delete. So.
But acting like you've read the book.
I have read the book.
Okay.
So I helped you come up with the name, and I was happy to do so. Anywhere I can help, you can always count on me.
Right.
Bounce ideas.
But no, there's. I guess I could talk about the idea of the shadows of darkness. There's literal shadows and darkness in the book, and there's the figurative. With the antagonists from the first book sort of reshaping themselves and becoming something new.
Well, they were
and working very much in the shadows to perpetrate more atrocities. That's it. That's all I got.
But of course, they think they're doing the right thing.
Well, that's the other thing. Of course, they think they're doing the right thing. I think that's what makes the best villains, are the ones who not only think they're doing the right thing, but you have to question, are they doing the right thing? Because what they're doing is actually good for everybody, isn't it? So, yeah.
And now I'd like you to pick 3 scenes to read from Mightiest of Swords to whet whet readers' appetites.
Ooh, 3 scenes?
Yeah, and I'll probably put up while you're reading. I'll probably put up the book cover so you can see that.
All right, I'm gonna read the first part just because it's just written from the antagonist's point of view, and I have these intermissions throughout this book in which the antagonist is basically blogging. I should say one of the antagonists is blogging for his organization. So I'm going to read that because that does...
And you don't actually have to read 3. It was just a number that popped in my head.
It was completely arbitrary. All right.
Exactly.
What we have learned. Since the first ape expressed belief gods were formed. At first the gods were simple. Sun, moon, death. Many of these gods were horrific, a few were noble. More often than not, these gods were self-serving and did little to meddle in the affairs of humanity. From the first appearance of Homo sapiens some 200,000 years ago, the gods' affairs trumped those of mortals. Humanity suffered for it. Why else would it take us 200 millennia to write the first word? The first man who depicted the sounds with scratches or dashes was the first man to triumph over the gods. It was knowledge that could be given to his son, and his son's son, and his son's son's son, transmitted through the millennia. The gods grew kinder. Only sacrifice your infants, "You're infirm," they said. They let men plant seeds and saw to it that the soil beneath them obeyed the men. They gently hinted at animal husbandry. "We have our blood, you must have yours," they said. "We give this to you." So mankind turned those words of knowledge into words of the gods, and their sacrifices grew greater as men used words of the gods to war against each other, flooding the gods' bowels with the sacrificial blood of warriors as well as innocents. Though distracted by writing down the gods' words, the words themselves still held the power for men. The gods engorged themselves on blood and worship, growing complacent and entitled. Men too grew tired, but not complacent. They crafted words for themselves, and themselves alone, and these words became power. In due course, the words of many of the gods grew obsolete and impotent, faced against the words that men had crafted for themselves. Homo sapiens sapiens needed the gods less and less. Their words had forged power into knowledge, which itself was the greatest kind of power. Many gods died during the first words of men. Many more have since been slain by oblivion alone. We must, however, use more than our words, more than our knowledge to murder the rest. In this lies the salvation of humanity.
And whose viewpoint would that be from?
Well, to say might spoil things, so I'm not going to.
Okay.
I think it's adequate to say it's a member of the antagonistic group.
Yes.
Okay, I guess I'm just going to read something from Chapter 1.
Alrighty.
How far do you want me to go?
It's up to you, man.
Okay.
Everything's up to you.
Chapter 1. Oh, actually, I'm going to start with my quote. I have lots of quotes in these books. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was a God. That's John 1:1, New World Translation. Chapter 1. I always use flowers to reset my mind. Daffodils and tiger lilies, memories of memories that lead me to calla lilies. My house is ancient by American standards. The vault beneath is ancient even by old world standards. The hinges on the vault were, themselves, incredibly thick, hinting at just how thick and impenetrable the vault actually was. When I was a kid, I used to imagine teams of ogres or giants wrestling with the vault door to steal the treasure inside, though back then I hardly thought of what the vault actually contained as treasure. I flashed an image of my father across my mind's eye and let the intonation of nostalgia color the memory. It is Easter Sunday, and I am watching him read a book, Gulliver's Travels. The sound of something heavy in metal scraping along something else heavy in metal reverberated through the door, vibrating the basement floor. It is my first day of first grade. I am nervous and a little sick. I sit at my desk at the back of the class. I vomit on my dress and onto the floor. It's even in my hair. The puke is inexplicably made of pink and blue stars. I laugh. A second lock releases with a hiss of air and metal on metal grating even further into the vault door. I am swimming in the lake behind the vacation house. It was marshy and I fear what hides behind the reeds. I have never seen it, but I know I have smelled it many times. I am 15, fearless and invincible, so I dare to tread water, kicking tangles of seaweed at my feet. I feel a hand move up my leg. The clanking of the last lock gave and made my feet shake more severely than the 2 times before. The door swung open fully, letting the electric light of my basement wash into the corridor. The light did not penetrate far enough. Those who know me, and I mean really know me, always ask me about what kind of pens I use. The invention of the ballpoint pen may very well have proven to have saved my life no less than a dozen times. If Bic only knew, I would endorse them for free. I also carry 4 or 5 Bic ballpoints in an inner pocket of my black leather scuba jacket. I carry 2 Sharpies, another endorsement ideal I'd readily make, a small spiral notepad, a 3-inch square Post-it notes. I love the neon ones best, but was currently down to the basic yellow ones. Pen in hand, I wrote light, lux, licht, in a triangular pictogram, put the Post-it in the palm of my hand. My hand flickered on, more like a bright candle than a flashlight, and I shined it down the corridor into the hold of the vault. The corridor itself was actually larger than the hold itself, but I have never questioned its design, though I often ask my father where it came from. My father would never gave me a straight answer, just from the old world, or something even more smartassish. I stepped into the alcove at the end of the walkway and stared. Everything was gone. It had been nearly a year since the last time I had stored something here, and now it was gone. All gone. I came to the quill, but the space was devoid of even the clutter that seemed worthless. I took out my Sharpie and began writing a divining incantation directly on the wall. It said nothing of who had been there. I started with my usual languages and triangular pictograms, Latin, Greek, High German, and expanded it out with more complex pictograms, and included those three, plus Old Norse, Sanskrit, and Akkadian. Nothing. What I wrote was intense and potent, but yielded no answers. Logomancy is rooted in language, in the written word, with the words growing more powerful depending on the language, the pictogram, and the will of the caster. The dead languages, because their power is not diluted by the speakers, offer the greatest chance at potency. The more complex the pattern of the pictogram, but the practice gets time-consuming. Besides which, the understanding and mastery of multiple languages is often a hindrance. One of the manuscripts I kept in the vault contained 17 words from the Proto-language. Only about half of them are useful, so I have mostly forgotten the others. But I kept the manuscript locked away in this vault, along with a great many more useful artifacts and manuscripts. A memory-locked vault was supposed to be the safest place in the universe. Yet, I had been robbed. There you go.
It seems. And the proto-language you're talking about is that the Proto-Indo-European?
Well, maybe. Is there a proto-language?
Yeah, they actually.
No, I'm just saying. Could there be multiple languages that have originated with other species? I mean, as we're finding other human-like species,
like Neanderthal.
Like Neanderthal or Denisovans.
Oh yeah.
Or even some of the other ones that they're discovering.
Yeah, lots of people haven't.
Who's to say they didn't come up with their own language as well? So yeah, I say proto-language in this, but I'm fully cognizant of their theories out there.
I'll just say something. Ata.
Klaatu Barata Niktu.
No. They in the Quest for Fire.
I've never seen it.
Really?
No.
Oh, it's meant to be funny in some parts because it's so corny.
Is that the one with
Raydon Chong?
Oh man, I don't.
And the dude from People Under the Stairs, and Dune.
Was it Sierra McGill?
Yeah, he's the main character. He also
Cool.
and also
Is that, I always get his name mixed up with the guy from the George Clooney's character from Oh Brother Where Art Thou? Is that Everett McGill?
I don't know.
Okay, I'm pretty sure it's Everett McGill. All right.
But anyways, they used Proto-European languages for the language that whatever they were. Maybe they were Neanderthal. It was hard to say exactly what they were. Maybe they were Cro-Magnon. But yeah, they used Proto-Indo-European. Ata meant fire.
Oh, okay.
And apparently, it does mean fire if you go back far enough.
Fire.
Which kind of sounds like hotter. Ata. All right, so
water.
All right, so basically, that's it, dude. Thanks.
Oh wait, am I gonna read the Will of Shadows back?
Yeah, read the synopsis. Absolutely.
Yeah, man, we're plugging Will of Shadows Inkwell Trilogy Part 2.
How long do you think it'll be until it comes out?
Part 3?
No, Part 2.
Oh, it comes out this week, man.
Dropping this week. Get the set.
Dropping the bomb. What?
And then finish in a couple of years.
Yes.
Get the third.
Yeah. Indeed. Okay, so this is Will of Shadows, Inkwell Trilogy Part 2. Aaron Buchanan's the name. Yep. The world is a very different place from what Grey Theroux experienced 5 months after nearly meeting her end at the Well of Gods. For one, she has a good many more friends and allies than she would have dreamed, including some of the gods themselves. Yet one ally was left behind. One ally, not Ally. One ally was left behind. In her search for the whereabouts of the Arithmancer Gavin Moniz, Grey finds herself under the pall of a conspiracy, hidden intentions, and mortal dangers. In her search for Gavin, she not only makes new friends, but the enemies of old renew their offensive, and one dangerous foe will lead her to her end or her destiny. Dun, dun, dun.
And what kind of magic does Gavin do?
Arithmancer. He uses mathematics.
Yeah. Which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't identify with Gavin as much as I do with Gray in that regard, being a linguist.
Yeah. But math is a kind of language.
It is.
So it makes sense.
Just not...
one we're particularly good at.
Yeah. Well, there is that, right?
Probably a little better than I am, but...
it's been many years.
All right. So that is it for today. Thanks.
Oh, you're welcome.
And you are welcome as well.
Thank you.
Hopefully this helps you out.
We shall see.
And that, as they say, is that. Please join me again next time.